Hey, welcome to Adventures with Peps. Today we are painting Warlord Games 2000 AD. Dirty Frank of the Wally Squad. Absolute amazing model to paint. Look at him. So much detail. He's got a little teddy bear. Let's see if the camera will stay on him. You are going to hear a bit of his backstory. We're going to paint him. And we're just gonna get on with it. Remember, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm loving all the new subscribers and the chat I'm starting to get through my social medias. Thank you very much. It is very much appreciated. Let's go. Welcome back. Right, here we go. We are now gonna just hit up Dirty Frank with some dry brush. He was primed black, as you can see, and then I'm just using some grey primer just to start catching those top colours, the top edges. As we all know, I'm going to be using contrast paints, so the more dry brushing I get in now, the easier these contrast paints are going to go on, and how much better the actual colour is going to pop on the model when it all starts to dry. This model, Dirty Frank, has so many little bits to it. His hair is a knotted mess. Sometimes in the comic he's seen with dreadlocks, other times it's just an absolute mess of hair. He's got this massive beard. There's a little teddy bear on the front. He's got medals from something. I'm not entirely sure what war Dirty Frank's meant to have been in. He's got his little teddy bear. There's, I don't know, studs on his shoulder pads. He's got knee pads on. There's rips in his coat. There's just so much detail, and by hitting it with that grey, it just really helps bring it out. And then, once that grey primer had dried, I gave it maybe 20 minutes to make sure it properly dried. I then went back in and started hitting it with some white primer. And as you can see, that's just really lifted up all the highest points on the model. I'm not going crazy hard on this dry brush here. I'm avoiding the gun as much as possible, as it's going to be a pretty dark colour anyway. And yeah, as you can see, look, there's just so much detail on it. The hair strands. It's a beautiful sculpt. Warlord Games did really well on this. So then with the white primer, I go in and try and pick out more of his facial features, anything that's ultimately going to be a skin colour. I had to go in and just make sure it had a good solid whiteness to it. These are key feature points on the model, i.e. the face, so you really want them to pop as much as possible. Yeah, I'm so impressed with this model. This one and Jack Point have to be some of my favourite sculpts by Warlord Games so far. They did an amazing job on capturing these characters. And compared to some of the models in the line, these are a real joy to paint. So there you go, I've picked out some of the medals and the teddy bear as well. Now we hop into the contrast painting. So straight up, snakebite leather. Classic brown colour. Dirty Frank is probably 95% brown. He's got a massive trench coat, dirty trousers, teddy bears. He is just a dirty colour. So you might as well start with the brown and get that on. As you can see, I'm just using the Army Painter Regiment brush, the one I've had now for a few years. Really needs a good clean of this brush at some point, but it works. Gets the paint on. And here I am, I'm just slapping it on. I'm letting the paint do all the work. I'm just showing it where I want it to be. And then I'm leaving it alone. And slowly, like a normal wash, it just covers the model and goes where it has to go. So now that the model is completely covered, I'll just put this down and let it dry up. As you can see already, the teddy bear, different shade of brown, same paint, more highlight on the teddy bear. And look, it just pops already. And here it is dry. You can see pretty much the contrast has done its job. We're then going to hit up the flesh with some Guilliman flesh. The classic flesh tone that I use these days now. Great thing with contrast paints is, as you'll see, as you can see, there's a massive chunk of garbage on my paintbrush. Ignore that. But it's amazing that I didn't notice it at the time. But yeah, if you do one coat and it doesn't seem dark enough, you just go over it again. Slap more on. Just keep putting it on. Worst case scenario is you can strip the model or you can prime it again. It's not the end of the world. I'm not a perfectionist in any way. I strive for just a decent tabletop standard that anyone can do. And that I'm very happy with. So that's the flesh colour done. As you can see, I'm just making sure I've got all the white covered. Hitting up some areas just to make them a little bit more darker. And we'll let them dry for a minute. Then at this stage, we hit it up with some Zandry Dust. I think if you've watched enough of my videos by now, you will know I love this paint. It is exactly what it says on the tin. It makes a dust effect. So as you can see, I'm now just covering Dirty Frank's dirty coat with it. I'm being pretty wild and loose with it. If a bit ends up on his face, bit ends up on his face. Like, he's Dirty Frank. He's not a clean person. Yeah, this is mostly how I paint these days. Contrast paint, dry brush, contrast paint, dry brush, dry brush, dry brush. It's quick, it's dirty. I enjoy this style of painting. It lets me zone out for 30 minutes to an hour. And look, I'm getting great results with very little effort put in by me. Anybody can dry brush. And now I'm going back in with some flayed one flesh. And I'm going to try and pick out the eye patches, the teddy bear, the cords on the rope around his neck, his belt, anything that just needs a little help getting boosted. I'm just going to hit with this flayed one flesh. Here I'm using the Army Painter detail brush. If you've not seen that YouTube video, I got these a couple of weeks back, and I have been loving them. They're a great kit. It was around $60-ish, I think, for a ton of brushes. I'll drop the link to that video in the comments below. But yeah, I got pretty much everything you'll need. I got some detail brushes, some absolutely tiny detail brushes as well. You get a regiment brush, you get a small and a large dry brush, there's a monster painting brush, there's a terrain painting brush, there was a masterclass brush. Beautiful set. Well worth it. These brushes, the white handled ones, I believe are synthetic, and then the Mastercraft brush has a sable here. But yeah, great kit, worth the money. Some people will say spend your money on a better paintbrush kit, but considering how much I actually get to paint and the way I paint, synthetic is the answer for me. And here I am just picking out some sleeve details, because ultimately I want Dirty Frank to have some green and yellow sleeves, just to give him a little pop of colour later on. So I'm just catching these lines on his arms. And then this part of the model is the fiddliest, his very small eye patch and his squinty eye. Turns out my detail brush was probably too big for for this for the job, but we get it done. And then I go heavy with some flayed one flesh into his hair because I want to try and give his hair some more tonage. And of course, back to the Zandry Dust. Everybody loves it, and we're just gonna purely hit the jacket as best as possible. This is just adding more dirt and grime to the coat, raising up those highlights on it, which will get knocked back at some point, but you got to make sure you got these highlights on. Contrast paint loves highlights. The more brightness versus shadows and depth you can give this paint, the better it works. It's like the Games Workshop washes. And now we're hitting up some contrast black. So this is the easy stuff. This is going to go on his gun and on his hair. So yeah, nothing special. You just nice, smooth, clean coverage. I just want the pistol to be black. It's going to pick up some silver quite nicely later on. I find contrast black does nice coverage. Gives me what I need without having to crack open the chaos black. And then I'm catching his military boots, I'm guessing they are. Maybe they're ex-Justice Department. Maybe they should have been green. But they're going to be black. Probably not going to touch the boots ever again in this video. You really can't see much of them. They're covered in dirt. They probably get a little bit of a Zandry Dust dry brushing later on. And then the hair. So yeah, Dirty Frank has dirty hair. I'm not entirely sure how you'd portray that on a model. So I'm not even going to try. I'm just using black Templar contrast paint over the model. Hopefully the crazy amount of highlights that I've put on with the grey, the flayed one flesh, the Zandry Dust, these little bits are all going to pop through and hopefully give him the look that his hair is greying and also a little bit dirty. And of course, it will get a slight dry brushing of Zandry Dust later. It's a reoccurring theme going on here. If you wish to sponsor me, Games Workshop, you can happily send me just a box full of Zandry Dust. I will get through it. The back was really hard to get contrast paint in. His hair is so spiky and over the top. I'm having to jab the brush in. Not the best way to paint, but it's getting the paint where it needs to be, and I can't ask for more than that. We're going to let that dry. Took about 10 minutes there to get that to dry up, and then we grab the contrast Dredd yellow. Now this yellow is a darker yellow. It's got a lot of warmth, a lot of I'd say brownish tones. I use it as gold on my judges, on their shoulder pads, eagles, all those parts. But on Dirty Frank, because I got these brown undertones going on, just gives it a bit of warmth. It's a colour that doesn't immediately pop out when you're looking at the model, but it is one that just adds a little bit of different point of reference. Like, as you can see from here. Snakebite leather's back. But yeah, as you can see, the yellow isn't bright, it's not in your face. It's subtle, it's gentle for this snakebite leather. the goal here is just to cover his coat again. So his trousers is going to stay this lighter shade. But his coat is now going to get a bit darker with the snake bite. Right, here we go. We're pretty much done with the snakebite leather. It's really darkened up his coat, as you can see. Just giving him the extra depth of colour. It's starting to lift out the teddy bear, some of the straps, the medals on his chest. It's giving him some depth. At this stage I pull out the camo green, pick out the rest of the stripes on his arm. Camo green just goes with these colours wonderfully because it's slightly muted. There's a browny earthy tone to it. It's warm. It doesn't stand out. It's not bright. It's not colourful. Dirty Frank's meant to be undercover. He's the polar opposite to Jack Point, who is this loudmouth clown who stands out in a crowd, yet is able to blend in because he's so out there. Dirty Frank is the opposite. He's the person you pass on the street every day outside the coffee shop. He's the one that you now and again give some money to. He's just part of the background. So at this stage, you pretty much have a tabletop ready Dirty Frank. You could stop here and you'd be good to go. I don't think anyone would complain. You got a nicely painted model. From here on out, I'm pretty much just doing detail work. So I grab the Leviathan Blue, if I can spit my words out. I'm using this on his eye patch. Now the reason I'm using this and not the black is that even though from a distance the eye patch looks black, it has a subtle colour change to it, which I really like. From 3 feet away, you are not noticing this. You could just use black. So there we go. All primer is now covered. All the highlighted stages are covered. Got a playable model. I wasn't really sure how I wished to do his chest medals, so I just decided to pick some Gryph-hound orange. Thought it might help pop. I grabbed the detail brush. I probably had a bit too much paint loaded on it. As you can see, it just floods everywhere, and I cut the video so you don't see the disaster. But you can see that. Then, everybody's favourite, Zandry Dust again. Gotta brighten up that snakebite leather. The coat is a nice dark shade, but it's too dark. So, nice heavy dry brushing. Don't matter if I catch his hair. Just adds that dirty, dusty effect. At this stage, you're probably thinking, what are you doing? You've destroyed all that hard work. Look at it. I've covered everything. This is the stage that I would actually freak out at. I think whilst doing this, I was freaking out a little bit. I know my system. I know the effect. But I still freak out when I do it. And this is what happens next, the Earth Shade. The Earth Shade really knocks the colours back. This is why you need to go over the top on your highlights. Watch as I put it on. It just takes that Zandry Dust. It sticks to it. It shows a lovely highlight. But because it sticks to it so well, it just knocks all the colours back into a realistic tonal group. And it gives you some lovely highlights. Look at his shoulders. The way the paint is just sitting in there. And on the finished model, it looks great. I know this theory scares a lot of people. And this isn't a painting style for a lot of my followers. A lot of you guys enjoy your nice clean paint styles. And I'm happy to look at those schemes, and I love looking at how good people can paint. But for me, I need characters that have lived. They gotta look dirty. They live in a mega city. They've had a hard life. They might be wearing bright colours, but through years of hanging out on street corners, they're not going to be bright. They're going to be dirty. They're going to be filthy. Just to make sure the model has time to dry, because there's a lot of wash on it, I just start messing around with the base a little. I don't do much with my bases. Basically, I stick some sand on, paint it black, paint it grey, give it a highlight of grey, give it a wash if it needs a wash, highlight grey again. It's a standard concrete-y look. I don't need to go over the top. Bases, they're nice and everything, but I don't need to go crazy. And here we have the finished model. This is where I stop painting for a little bit. I'm happy with how this looks. I'm going to take this point to talk about Dirty Frank. An effective judge despite his apparent lunacy, Frank, who refers to himself in the third person, has been instrumental in saving the city from numerous threats. In the freeway crossover trifecta, he defeated the Shark Man Overdrive, who was plotting to conquer the city alongside Judge Backman. He also rescued Chief Judge Hersey from an alien army of ice monsters, led by the former friend Amy Nixon. Frank was barely tolerated by much of the Justice Department, but has grudging respect from Judge Dredd. Ultimately, though, it was revealed that Frank's mental problems stemmed from guilt over having participated in the slaughter of innocents orchestrated by Judge Smiley. Oof, he's got a dark, dark backstory. Yeah, so what else can I tell you about him? So part of the Judge Smiley arc was that his mind was wiped away of what he had witnessed and the acts he had committed. He now called himself Dirty Frank. There may be reason for the name beyond his body odor. The insane but deeply loyal judge joined the Wally Squad in 2103 and wound up living in Lowlife, the city's most crime-ridden area, under the supervision of his controller, Judge 4. His abilities: he's good at sneaky, he's your average human, reduced to depth perception due to his eye patch and being as mad as a box of frogs. He has a child's badge saying, "I am too," a teddy bear with an eye patch, some water wings and swimming goggles, and he can occasionally ride a Lawmaster. What a character. As always, I appreciate you stopping by and listening to me rant, and I hope you'll like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Cheers.